Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. It is with a rather shocked and really heavy heart that I have to announce that Jeffrey Arnold Beck, otherwise known as Jeff Beck, has died. Um, I mean, out of nowhere, right? Born June 24th, 1944, in Wallington, Surrey, England. It's listed that he died yesterday, the 10th of January, 2023, but they just announced it today, so maybe they waited 24 hours or so before making the announcement. Age 78, the guitar great, the guitar legend, the true innovator is gone. After a brief bout with viral meningitis, he left us. Wow. I'm still in like utter shock. I mean, this is like you hate it when any rock star leaves this planet, right, or leaves this sphere or whatever you want to call it. But when one of the true legends, and make no mistake about it, Jeff Beck is a legend, suddenly leaves, it's hard to deal with. And to me, wasn't it January a couple years ago, almost to the day, where we lost Neil Peart, right, from Rush. Wow. I literally just found that a couple minutes ago. And I just wanted to make sure that it was official, that it was true, and unfortunately it is. So, I got to do something for Jeff, right? And maybe there'll be more going forward because the music of Jeff Beck and his guitar playing has meant a lot to me in my life. And the world will be a much worse place without him. But as we always say, life does go on, right? And we still have his music to get us through the rest of our lives. And that's what's the gift of music always is. Even though we lose our idols and our favorite musicians and singers and whatnot and entertainers, they had a gift that they gave us, and that gift will always live on through generation after generation. So, again, Jeff, of course, got his start in the Yardbirds, right? Made his name in the Yardbirds, and then he left the Yardbirds to go solo at the end of the 60s. And, of course, Jeff Beck Truth comes out, one of the most important heavy rock albums of the late 60s. And, of course, Rod Stewart got his start in this band, right? So not only is Jeff Beck one of the true innovators and legends of guitar playing, of rock guitar playing, he helped spawn the career of one of our great singers of all time, Rod Stewart, right? Ron Wood, the whole cast. We know it's just bluesy, heavy rock guitar, like we never heard before. But of course, we had Hendrix kind of at the same time. You had these amazing innovators at this time, Beck and Hendrix and Clapton and Page, right, and Blackmore, all the others, right? I mean, but this guy was something special. Nobody ever sounded like Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck didn't sound like anybody else. He had the voice. He could do masterful things with his fingers to get all sorts of cool effects and whatnot, whether he was playing a Stratocaster or playing a Les Paul or what have you. Just amazing albums. He had the tone. He had the technique. God. Of course, then, of course, after that kind of band splintered, he put together the second Jeff Beck group, did more funky things. I mean, that was the thing about Jeff Beck. He never stayed in one place for too long. Started off his career, obviously, doing kind of pop and blues and whatnot with the Yardbirds. And then the first couple Jeff Beck albums were basically blues, but really heavy, utilizing fuzz and all sorts of studio effects to create a heavier sound, the precursor to Led Zeppelin, of course, right? And then here he decided to kind of break away from that a little bit and explore like kind of funk and R&B, little touches of jazz, right? And that would come even more so. We also got Beck, Bogart, and the Peace, one of the great early rock supergroups of all time with Tim Bogart, Carmine Appice. But, then you get this stuff where Jeff decides, all right, I've done the kind of heavy rock thing, I've done the blues thing. Let's get into this kind of jazz fusion, whatnot, this jazz rock that everybody else seems to be doing, like John McLaughlin, the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and Tommy Bolin with Billy Cobham and Alphonse Mouzon and Return to Forever and Weather Report. I want to do this too, and man, did he do it, right? Blow by Blow and Wired, two of the great jazz rock albums of the early mid-'70s. So tasty. Just, again, a guy who could play and run rings around most guys, but he was more about playing for the song and just his solos, his phrasing, his little melodic lines. I mean, what's great, there's a lot of great things about these albums, but one of the many is that you don't even need a vocalist on either one of these two albums because Jeff is doing all the vocal lines on guitar. You don't miss vocals at all. He's doing all the melodies and the harmonies with that axe of his, and man, does it sound spectacular. You got Jan Hammer along for the ride here, Narada Michael Walton. I mean, you got so many great players on these albums. And then, of course, there's so much great live stuff. And then, of course, he did it all again with There and Back. Great stuff. And, of course, we go into the 80s. He gets into, more funky R&B and pop stuff with Flash. Reunites with Rod Stewart for that as well. Disappears for a while. He was always disappearing for a while, right? Jeff Beck he marched to the beat of his own drum. Always playing the kind of music he wanted to play, releasing albums when he wanted to release albums. Didn't bother if nobody else was doing this kind of music or that kind of music. He didn't care. He was going to do it anyway, right? Guitar Shop. Let's close out the 80s with an absolute belter of a power trio with Tony Hymas and Terry Bozzio. Grammy Awards. I mean, just fantastic stuff here. He's been releasing albums every so often, right? They're all different. They're all ultimately, though, identifiable as Jeff Beck, because when you hear Jeff Beck play, you know it's Jeff Beck, right? I mean, geez, Ozzy Osbourne even had on his most recent solo album, which came out last year, he had Beck on 2 tracks on there, right? When Jeff Beck plays a solo on your album, regardless of whether you're playing heavy metal, hard rock, jazz, pop, doesn't matter, funk, Jeff Beck plays a solo, you know who it is. When Jeff Beck appeared on Stanley Clarke's solo albums, you know it was Jeff Beck playing. When Jeff Beck played with Roger Waters and played some solos, you knew it was Jeff Beck, right? Instantly, that raucous tone, right? That go for the throat, dangerous vibe that he brought to every song he ever recorded on, yet gorgeous and beautiful at the same time. Man, Jeff Beck. I'm having a hard time thinking and knowing that Jeff Beck is no longer with us. Because it just seemed, I mean, he just toured, and that makes this even harder for me. I had an opportunity to see Jeff Beck twice over the last couple of years, just prior to COVID and recently, and for various reasons I couldn't go, and I was like, you know what, I'll go catch him again, even though I haven't seen him since 1989, and I missed that opportunity, and I really regret it now. Because I would have loved to have seen Jeff Beck at least one more time. Granted, I've seen tons of live, things and live albums and Blu-rays and DVDs and Ronnie Scott's and all that. I've seen lots of that stuff, and I own lots of that stuff. So there's YouTube, so I can go and I can watch Jeff Beck perform on a TV screen or on a computer screen every day. But it's not the same thing. I still remember back 1989, Madison Square Garden. Jeff opened up for Stevie Ray Vaughan on that great tour they did together, and being there amongst the near 20,000 people, watching the historic return of Jeff Beck just owning the stage. I'll always remember it. I will always remember that concert. Always. For a couple things, right? For a couple reasons. A, it was my one and only time seeing Jeff Beck live. B, it was a great comeback for him. C, it was a great comeback for Stevie Ray as well because he was clean, he was playing with renewed vigor, and they played together at the end of the night. And then we lost Stevie not long after that. So I will forever remember that concert. Now I remember it for a reason that I wish I didn't have to remember it for, but because that would be the one and only time I would get to see Jeff Beck live on stage. I'm holding back tears, guys. Jeff Beck leaves us January 10th, January 11th, whatever the final date is, winds up being 2023. Please go and listen to some Jeff Beck music tonight and tomorrow and the rest of the week, because his music is worth listening to over and over and over again. and he will be missed. So to the family and friends of Jeff Beck and all his fans out there who happen to watch this video, I'm with you. I'm feeling the hurt. This is a great loss. This is a monumental loss. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please, down in the comments, give some of your thoughts to the great music of Jeff Beck and the man himself. And thanks for watching. And Jeff, you're up there with Jimmy and all the other greats right now, I'm sure, playing some nasty licks and having a ball. At least I hope you are. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Rest in peace, Jeff Beck. Take care. Bye-bye.